Kneel before
If you want to get more closely acquainted with Vergil's doppelganger mechanic, I strongly encourage you to watch my first video, which is basically this doppelganger guide, where I go very in-depth into the basics, the rudimentary aspects of this mechanic. The link to that video will be in the description below, so yeah. So first things first, before I start talking about the combo and the mistakes you can make and all that jazz, I should preface this by talking about my controls. So I play this game using my mouse and keyboard. Yeah, really. Blasphemy, I know. But I think that if you've ever played a single game on your PC using a mouse and a keyboard, these controls should be familiar to you. I think they're very easy to grasp. So, just like with almost every game ever, WASD are the keys you use for movement. So W is forward, S is backwards, A is left, D is right. This is the equivalent to you using your analog stick for moving, like tilting it left, right, forward, backward. That's basically what I use. So again, W forward, S backward, A left, D right. Obviously, just like in every game ever, space is jump. So I jump using space. The left mouse button, unsurprisingly, is the attack button. Also, like in every game ever. The right mouse button is the button I use for Mirage Blades. So all of my Mirage Blade attacks are mapped to the right button. The right mouse button, I mean. So that's basically it for these basic controls. Shift is the button I use for locking on. So when I lock on, I press Shift. In this game, you gotta be locked on for just about any attack ever. Only under specific circumstances should you release the lock on. But yeah, basically lock on is Shift in my case. So next up, we've got the trick action. So, trick up, down, air trick, all that stuff. I use E. So E is the button I use. So if I press E without locking on, that is trick up. If I press E while locking on, like Shift plus E, that is air trick, and I teleport. If I press back to forward plus E, or S plus W plus E, that is trick down. So like I said, E is the trick action. That's the button I use for tricking, basically. R is the button I use for taunting. So that's the taunt button. Air taunts, lock-on taunts, doesn't matter. R is the button you gotta press for taunting. Moving on, I have F, and F is the button I use to charge my Sindel trigger. So I press and hold F, then I release it, and I basically go into my Sindel trigger mode. Moving on, we also have 1 and 2. So 1 is the button for changing the weapon to the right. So my layout is as follows. I use the default layout for my weapons, my arsenal. So it goes Yamato, Beowulf, Mirage Edge. So if I have the Yamato equipped and I press 1, it will switch to Beowulf, which is the weapon to its right. And if I press 1 again, it will switch from Beowulf to the Mirage Edge, which is the weapon to its right. If I have the Yamato equipped, and I press 2, it will go to the weapon that's on its left, and that is the Mirage Edge. If I press 2 again, it will switch to Beowulf. If I press 2 again, it will once again switch to the Yamato. So that's how this works. We're switching weapons left and right. That's how it works. Moving on, we have the doppelganger buttons. So the buttons are as follows. X is the slow doppelganger. This is a doppelganger that is kind of delayed by about, I don't know, half a second or something. So that's X. C is the normal doppelganger. He is slightly delayed, not by half a second, but like he's just not completely in sync with you. So that's C. And V is the haste version of the doppelganger who is completely in sync with you, meaning that he immediately reacts to your commands and he mimics your inputs. He registers them immediately and simply reacts to them. So, yeah. I deactivate the doppelganger by pressing Z. So that's how I do it. And, you know, that's pretty much that. Those are all the controls, really. There are some other things like, you know, using CTRL to basically lock onto multiple targets, or, I mean, switch the lock on, stuff like that, or using the arrows, using, you know, it just doesn't matter, really. These are the main things that you will need. So, if I say I'm pressing D plus left mouse button, that means that I'm pressing right plus attack button. If I say I'm pressing S plus W plus left mouse button, that means I'm pressing back to forward plus attack button. Kind of like tilting your analog stick back and then forward and then pressing the attack button. So that's how it works. If I say back to forward plus right mouse button, or S plus W plus right mouse button, that is basically back to forward plus your Mirage Blade button. So heavy rain blades in my case. But don't worry, most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'll say right plus attack button instead of D plus left mouse button, because I feel like that's more universally comprehensible, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, these are my controls, and now let's talk about the actual combo. So let's peep the library combo now. The library combo is a combo by Chantatsu. Again, it's a really, really great combo. So you start the combo off by using /2 with the Yamato, and this will launch Vergil into the air alongside the enemy. After this, you use Aerial Ray 2 with the Yamato, and you switch to Beowulf and you use Lunar Phase. And as soon as Vergil does that last hit, that last kick of Lunar Phase, like as soon as the enemy starts to fall to the ground, you don't waste a fraction of a millisecond. You immediately use Trig Down to teleport to the ground, and you use the first 2 hits of Beowulf Combo A so as to suspend the enemy in the air. You know, if you are too late in using Trig Down, the enemy will already be on the ground, and you won't be able to suspend them in the air with these 2 hits and with these 2 punches. So it's imperative, it's paramount that you use Trig Down as soon as the enemy starts falling, and then you essentially just teleport to the ground and you use these 2 punches to, you know, basically suspend the enemy. Because once you pin the enemy to the ground with that final kick of Lunar Phase, the enemy will fall to the ground, but then they'll bounce back up. But this won't last long, and you really gotta take advantage of that window. So look at this, like, I did Lunar Phase, but I didn't Trig Down in time, and I couldn't catch the enemy with these 2 punches after they bounce back up. But here, I could. So it's really important to know exactly when to Trig Down. You gotta do it really fast. So, but don't do it too early, because that's also a bad thing. You gotta wait for the enemy to start falling, otherwise it won't work. After this, you switch to the Yamato again, and you use Rapid Slash. Alright, so this is the part that I gotta explain. Rapid Slash, when you're on the right side, is a left plus attack button, or in my case, A plus left mouse button. And that's Rapid Slash. But you have to hold the attack button, or the left mouse button, while you're using Rapid Slash, so as to use this perfect judgment cut, right? But there are a few issues here. So if you press left and you hold the attack button, you will end up using Rising Star, because Rising Star is left plus holding the attack button. But if you use left plus attack button without holding it, you'll just do a regular Rapid Slash without any judgment cut. So what you need to do, essentially, is you press left plus attack button, and immediately, you let go of the attack button, like left plus attack button, you let go of the attack button for a fraction of a millisecond, and then you immediately press it again, and you keep holding it, and then you release it at the right time to do this perfect judgment cut. So let me go over this again. You press, like after you're done with these 2 hits with Beowulf Combo A, you essentially switch to the Yamato, you press left plus attack button, you let go of the attack button for like a fraction of a second, and you press it again, and you keep holding it, and you keep holding it, and you only release it in time to do this perfect judgment cut. Another mistake that can arise from all this is you end up holding the attack button for too long before releasing it, and Vergil ends up doing this regular judgment cut instead of the perfect version. This is not what you want, because if Vergil ends up doing a regular judgment cut instead of the perfect version, what's going to happen is he will do this backdash, and, you know, the enemy will simply fall to the ground, and that's not what you want. So it's very important to keep all of this in mind. If you don't hold the attack button long enough, what's going to happen is there will be no judgment cut. But if you hold it for too long before releasing it, well, you know, you'll do a regular judgment cut. So you need to have this perfect timing to know exactly when to do a perfect judgment cut. And for this, you need muscle memory. There are videos explaining this, and it comes with practice. So, but it's pretty easy, believe me. Alright, so now that you're done using this perfect judgment cut, you switch the Mirage Edge and you use Million Stab, which is right plus holding the attack button, or right plus holding the attack button and then subsequently mashing it. But make sure to hold the attack button, because if you don't, if you only press right plus attack button, or in my case D plus left mouse button without holding the attack button, you will do a regular stinger. So while you're using this Million Stab, you make sure to input the Storm Blades, which is, in my case, A plus right mouse button, or, well, left plus Mirage Blade button. And you make sure to keep holding the right mouse button, or, well, the Mirage Blade button. You keep holding it throughout the combo until it's finally time to release it. Bear this in mind. Like, you can see my commands, my right mouse button, I keep holding it. So you got to keep holding the Mirage Blade button. You don't want to release the Storm Blades just yet. So again, you use Million Stab, and while you're using it, you input the Storm Blades, which is left plus Mirage Blade button, and now you switch to the Yamato and you use Rapid Slash once again. And let me, go over this again, in case you didn't get me when I said it the first time. So you gotta use Rapid Slash, which is right plus attack button. So you press right plus attack button, then you let go of the attack button for just a fraction of a millisecond, and then you press it again, and you keep holding it until it's finally time to release it, so that you can once again do that perfect judgment cut. It's the exact same thing as before, except it's the other side now. And again, you can face the same issue. If you press right plus attack button and you don't hold the attack button, you will do a regular Rapid Slash without any judgment cut. But if you press right and you hold the attack button outright, immediately, you will do a Rising Star. And you don't want that. So make sure you don't, make sure you're not holding the attack button. Don't press right and then hold the attack button, because that will result in you using Rising Star. But don't press right plus attack button without holding the attack button either. So like I said, you need to press right plus attack button and then immediately let go of the attack button once Vergil starts Rapid Slash, and then you immediately press it and hold it, and then you hold it for a long time and release it so that you can do this perfect judgment cut. And again, there's that other risk. If you hold it for too long, you might end up using a regular judgment cut. If you hold it for too long and then release it, you might end up doing this regular judgment cut where Vergil will do this backdash and the enemy will fall to the ground, and that's not what you want. So yeah, basically, like I said, so you press, let's go over this again. While using Million Stab, you input the Storm Blades, you switch to the Yamato, and you use Rapid Slash. So you press right plus attack button, you immediately let go of the attack button as soon as Vergil starts Rapid Slash, you press it again, and you keep holding it, and then you finally release it in time. You gotta have that perfect timing, and you do this perfect judgment cut. Now, you use Rising Star with the Yamato, which is left plus holding the attack button, and now, this is pivotal. This is the most important part of the combo. You basically switch to Beowulf, right? After using Rising Star, you immediately switch to Beowulf. and you use Starfall, which is just pressing the attack button. But now, you're finally supposed to release the Mirage Blade button, the right mouse button, so that the Storm Blades could launch the enemy into the air. But timing is of essence here, because you really need to know when to release it. This is the biggest issue with this combo. Because if you release the Mirage Blade button, the right mouse button, too early, what's going to happen is you're essentially, when you do this Yamato combo A, what's going to happen is the enemy is simply going to fall to the ground. But if you do it too late, this might happen. So you really need to know exactly when to release the right mouse button or the Mirage Blade button, because if, from what I can tell, you're supposed to release it after you've already started Starfall. So you're basically supposed to release the right mouse button or the Mirage Blade button approximately around this point, where Vergil stretches out his legs to do Starfall, like this. And at that point, you release the Storm Blades and they launch the enemy into the air. Like I said, I will basically show you some examples where I did it right and where I did it wrong, so that you could know approximately when to release the Mirage Blades, or Storm Blades. And now, assuming you did this perfectly, you use Starfall, and as soon as you hit the ground, you have to do two things. The first thing is, you have to switch to the Yamato, and do Yamato Combo A. The second thing you gotta do is, immediately after you hit the ground with Starfall, you press F, or well, in my case, that's F, and you start charging up your Sin Double Trigger. You need to keep this in mind. You need to start charging up your Sin Double Trigger to do this. So, like I said, you hit the ground with, Starfall, you switch to the Yamato, and you start charging up your Sin Double Trigger, and you keep charging it. And then you basically release it after this fourth hit of Yamato Combo A, or even before that. It doesn't really matter, right? But it's pretty important that you do this. And the reason it's important is because Yamato Combo A in base form is just 5 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in Sin Double Trigger, you have these additional 3 hits, and that's the whole point of the combo. So if you don't go into your Sin Double Trigger, you will, basically not be able to do this. You'll just do this regular, 5th hit, and it doesn't look as cool. That's the whole point of this combo. So, just make sure to release your Sin Double Trigger. You make sure to charge it as soon as you hit the ground, and you make sure to basically, release it before the 4th hit, and then you'll do these 3 final hits of Yamato Combo A, and you will basically send the enemy flying. And, that's essentially this library combo. You can basically make a lot of mistakes here. Well, not a lot, but you can make some mistakes here. For example, at this point, I basically, here, I did not, I didn't use Trig Down in time, and the opponent basically fell to the ground before I could start mashing, before I could start hitting them with Beowulf. That's one of the mistakes you can make. Another mistake you can make is you could just fail to release Judgment Cut, or you could end up doing the regular Judgment Cut instead of the perfect one. That's always a risk that you take with these kinds of combos. Another thing that I did here, for example, is I switched to the Yamato too slowly. I wasn't fast enough, so the opponent basically fell to the ground. I had to use a Mirage Blade to keep them airborne, but it just looks kind of weird, honestly. And of course, you could, the biggest issue with this combo, in my opinion, is the Storm Blades. Sometimes they'll just launch the opponent into the air, and, they'll fall to the ground before you could actually hit them, or it'll be too late or too early, and you really gotta know when to release the right mouse button. So, if you look at my keyboard, you might gain some insight or something, or if you look at the original combo, but it's pretty fucky, honestly. Also, for example, here, the enemy fell to the ground after the million stab. I didn't really have time to cancel into Rapid Slash, so that's also a possible issue, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, basically that's it. So here's a compilation of that one fail with Yamato Combo A. That's definitely the most recurring mistake you can make with this combo. And like I said, it's really inconsistent. There's no actual correct way to do this. The only advice I can give you is to definitely not release the Stormblades, not release the right mouse button, or well, the Mirage Blade button, before you start Starfall, right? So that's the main thing, because in all of these instances that you're seeing right now here, the first half at least, you'll see that basically when I release the Mirage Blade button, or well, the right mouse button, before starting Starfall, before pressing the attack button, or well, the left mouse button, the combo will fail. The enemy will fall to the ground, or God knows what will happen. In a lot of these instances, the camera will also get all messed up, like zoomed in, and that's kind of like a telltale sign that the combo simply will not work. But there are also other fails. I mean, it's the same problem, you know, Yamato Combo A and all. But like I said, it's like you're supposed to release the Stormblades, the Mirage Blade button, or well, the right mouse button, kind of like either after Vergil stretches out his legs to do Starfall, or slightly before that. It's really, really hard to say exactly when you're supposed to do this because it's never consistent. And I can show you that in these examples. Because it's not always like that. You don't always have to wait for Vergil to stretch his legs out to use Starfall before releasing the right mouse button, or all the Mirage Blade button. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have no idea what it depends on. Like, legitimately. I wish I knew, but I don't. And like I said, this might not bother you. Like, you might not mind this, for example. Yeah, the enemy falls to the ground, but the combo still works, right? It's not like it doesn't work. In some instances, it literally won't work. But in most instances, it will work. You will do Yamato Combo A. It's just that the enemy will fall to the ground before you do the first hit, right? And that can be a problem. But if you don't mind that, then more power to you. Like, knock yourself out. You don't really have to, like, pay attention to any of this. You're sparing yourself a lot of trouble, basically. For example, here, as you can see, I basically released the right mouse button, or well, the Mirage Blade button, as soon as Vergil stretched out his legs to use Starfall. And it worked. But here, I did the exact same thing. The exact same thing, and it didn't work. So, I don't know what to tell you. The only thing I know for real is there will be blood. Okay, listen, like, the only thing I know for real is that you should not release the Stormblades. You should not release the right mouse button or the Mirage Blade button before you start Starfall. It's imperative that you press the attack button. And after you've pressed the attack button, that's when you are allowed to release the Stormblades, right? And I don't know how much, like, how long you need to wait, but it's like somewhere around this ballpark when you start Starfall. So I have no idea what advice to give you, because as you can see, it is incredibly inconsistent.
I'll cut you in fly! You wretch!